My name's Clara, I'm 32, and right now I feel like I'm unraveling, like the person I thought I was is slipping through my fingers. I've been holding this secret inside for weeks, maybe months. It's been eating me up from the inside out, and I don't know how to carry it anymore. He found out I cheated in our own bed. And since then, he's pretending I don't exist. Won't look at me, won't talk to me, won't explain why. That's the truth. I know it sounds like the end of everything, but before all this, before the silence, before the coldness that settled between us, our life felt different. Safe, yes. Comfortable, sure. But also something else, electric. Like the kind of fire you don't want to burn out. We had those nights where his hands would roam my back like he was memorizing every curve, like he was tracing a map only he knew the language of. The way he kissed me in the dark, slow and certain, it made me feel like the only woman in the world. But that fire started to flicker. It was subtle at first, a kiss that lingered just a little too long before fading, a hug that felt less like comfort and more like a demand for something I couldn't give. The space between us began to grow in ways I didn't notice until it was too late. Sometimes, when I reached for him, his body would stiffen, and I'd pull away before the rejection even hit. I remember the exact moment I realized something had changed. We were lying in bed, the same bed I betrayed. He wrapped his arms around me, but instead of the warmth I remembered, there was a chill. His fingers didn't trace my skin anymore. They clenched like he was holding back a storm. I tried to meet his eyes, searching for a spark, but they were distant, shuttered. And in that silence, with the weight of what I'd done pressing down, I knew we were no longer the people who used to make love and promises in this room. That's when the distance became real. And I started to lose not just him, but myself. His name is Mark. He's a firefighter, steady, reliable, the kind of man who's built to take control when everything else is falling apart. That's part of why I loved him so much. When the world felt chaotic, Mark was the calm center. But lately, his way of showing love has felt like a puzzle I couldn't solve. He tries to reach me through touch. After a long day, he'll come home, drop his gear by the door, and wrap me in one of those tight hugs like he's trying to physically anchor me. But it's not the comfort it used to be. It's more like he's grabbing for something that's slipping away, and in doing so, he ends up squeezing too hard. I flinch sometimes, but I don't say anything. How do you tell someone who's trying so hard that their love feels like a weight you can't carry? One night, after another silent dinner, Mark sat beside me on the couch and pulled me close. His hands rested on my waist, firm, familiar, but I was somewhere else. I wanted to tell him I needed more than just touch. I needed words, connection, to feel seen beyond skin. I wanted to tell him that what I craved wasn't just physical closeness, but emotional intimacy, a bridge over this growing distance. But the words got stuck. Instead, I leaned away and I could see the confusion in his eyes, like I'd just closed a door he was desperately trying to open. That night, he kissed me, not the slow, searching kisses we used to share, but a quick, almost mechanical press of lips. It wasn't angry, but it wasn't tender either. It's this invisible divide between us that's tearing me apart. I feel unseen, like the real me has been locked behind a door he can't find the key to. And Mark? He's reaching out the only way he knows, but it's never enough. I want him to understand that I need to be held, not just by his hands, but by his heart. Yet somehow we're both stuck, waiting for the other to make the first move toward something neither of us can name aloud. Mark came home late that Friday, smelling of smoke and sweat, but still somehow trying to carry a calm I used to crave. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling mindlessly on my phone when he walked in behind me, his footsteps heavy but quiet. Without saying a word, he dropped his jacket, crossed the room, and reached for me. His hands slid around my waist and pulled me close. I wanted to melt into him like I used to, the way his touch could erase all the noise, but instead I tensed. His fingers dug just a little too firmly into my hip, and a sharp flicker of discomfort shot through me. I didn't move away, but inside, I was recoiling, like a reflex I couldn't stop. He leaned down and kissed my neck, low and steady. I closed my eyes, hoping I'd feel something: warmth, desire, anything. But it was like kissing a stranger. The heat I expected wasn't there. When he pressed a hand lightly on my back, I flinched just slightly, the way you do when you don't know if you want to be touched or pushed away. "Hey," Mark murmured softly, pulling back just enough to look at me. "Everything okay?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and shook my head, but it came out more like a whisper. "I don't know." He hesitated, and for a moment, I thought maybe he'd ask more. Maybe we'd talk. Instead, he tried to brush it off with a small smile and a quick slap on my backside, a move that once made me laugh, but now just made my skin crawl. I pulled away gently, sitting straighter, my heart pounding, my mind spinning. Why does everything have to turn into sex? We were supposed to have a quiet dinner. Just the two of us, candles flickering on the table, soft music playing in the background, something to remind us of what we used to be. Mark had cooked, his way of trying to patch the distance that's been growing like a slow crack in the foundation. I wanted to believe this night would be different. But as we ate, the silence between us felt heavier than the food on my plate. I wanted to reach for him, to say something real, but the words caught like thorns in my throat. Instead, I kept turning over that truth he discovered, the secret that's destroyed our fragile world. "Why don't you say anything anymore?" I finally burst out, my voice trembling. "Why do you act like I'm not even here?" Mark looked up, eyes dark and guarded. "Because you broke something," he said quietly. "Because you betrayed me. You cheated, in our own bed, Clara. How am I supposed to pretend that didn't happen?" I blinked back tears, the weight of his words crushing me. "I know," I whispered. "I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you." "Sorry." His voice cracked, sharp and raw. "Sorry doesn't fix this." The room spun, and suddenly I was crying, not the quiet, polite tears, but the kind that shake your whole body, that expose everything you've been hiding. Mark didn't move, didn't try to comfort me. He just sat there, silent and distant. After a long moment, I wiped my face, ashamed and exhausted. My heart ached not just from his anger, but from the realization that this silence, this coldness, was a wall I helped build. I thought maybe if I confessed, if I was honest, things could go back to how they were. But now I see it's not just the cheating. It's how that secret made him disappear from me, like he's pretending I don't exist at all. And here I am, caught between wanting to fix us and feeling utterly lost in the mess I made. Days passed, then weeks. The silence between Mark and me stretched so thin, it felt like a fragile thread ready to snap at any moment. We moved around each other like strangers sharing a space, careful not to touch, careful not to speak, as if words might shatter whatever fragile piece remained. I watch him sometimes, from the kitchen doorway or across the living room, and I see a man I'd barely recognize. His shoulders slump just a little more each day, his eyes clouded with something I can't reach. He doesn't yell. He doesn't accuse. He just withdraws. It's like the weight of my betrayal is pressing down on him, crushing the parts of him I loved most, his warmth, his humor, the way he used to look at me like I was everything. I miss him. God, how I miss him. But every time I try to close the gap, to bridge the silence, I freeze. What do you say to someone who's pretending you don't exist? How do you reach across a chasm built from broken trust and raw pain? Some nights, I lie awake, heart pounding, replaying every moment, the kiss that didn't reach his eyes, the hug that felt like a demand, the way he pulls away when I try to get close. I feel guilty, yes, but deeper than that is a gnawing ache of longing. Not just for him, but for the life we promised each other. The life I shattered. Last night, I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the empty space beside me, and I finally asked myself, do I want to fight for this? To try again? To rebuild what we lost? Or is it time to let go? To walk away from the man who's becoming a stranger? I don't have the answer yet. But I know one thing for sure, whatever I choose, it won't be easy. And maybe that's the hardest part of all. A week later, something shifted. Not with fireworks or grand declarations, but in the quiet spaces between us. Mark came home after his shift, looking worn but not distant this time. I was sitting on the couch, and without a word, he sat beside me and reached out. His hand found mine, tentative, unsure, but it was enough. I didn't pull away. We didn't talk about the cheating right then, didn't try to unpack the whole mess at once. Instead, we just sat there, fingers entwined, sharing the kind of silence that feels more like healing than distance. Later, as I got ready for bed, Mark came in and paused at the doorway. Without saying a word, he crossed the room and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. It was brief, but it carried everything we hadn't been able to say. I'm still here. I'm trying. That night, I lay awake listening to the sound of him sleeping on the couch, the steady rise and fall of his breath, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. We both know the road ahead won't be easy. Trust doesn't mend overnight. But maybe, just maybe, we can find a way back, not to what we were, but to something new. Something honest. And that feels like hope. If you asked me where we are now, I'd say we're somewhere in between, not broken, not fixed, just real. I've learned that love isn't always about the perfect moments or the fireworks. Sometimes, it's about showing up in the silence, holding on when everything feels fragile, and being willing to face the hard truth without turning away. I'm still scared. I still carry guilt, and there are days when I wonder if this is all too much to ask. But I also know that pretending he doesn't exist, or pretending I don't, only makes the distance grow. So here I am, still trying, still hoping, because sometimes love isn't about never making mistakes. It's about what you do after. And that's a story I'm not ready to stop telling yet. 2.